Welcome to the Michael Savage YouTube appearance. In addition to the podcasts, I do these occasionally. Today's God Talk is entitled Zionism. What is a Zionist? Because what you have is an ignorance and a hatred beyond comprehension. It's not all coming from the left either. You see it from the crypto Nazis on the right wing who are condemning Israelis, saying Zionism is evil and such. They don't even know what Zionism is, not know what it means, and yet they condemn it because they hate Jews in plain English. We're living in very dangerous times. I was going to do something today because I do not sleep very well. Anyone who's sleeping very well, I both admire you and pity you because we're living in very dangerous times. When you see hundreds of thousands of Palestinian mobs, hundreds of thousands of them in mobs around the country, defacing our statues, jumping over the White House fence, this was an insurrection. No one was arrested. And yet we have people who, from the January 20th incident, who are rotting in prison for 20, 25 years. So it's not a two-tier justice system. It's a no justice system. We're living in a tyranny, a dictatorship under Joe Biden. But that's an old story. That's not a new story. What I mean to do today is establish some sense of peace in my own mind. And I actually thought that I would establish the Savage Institute of Peace because it's the only way to approach the times we are in. And sure, I will talk about what is Zionism. For those of you who don't know, I'll make it really simple for the bigots, the Nazis, the crypto Nazis, and the Jew haters amongst you. It's simple. What is Zionism? The word Zion derives from a hill in the city of Jerusalem and to the city of Jerusalem itself. That's what Zionism means. Now, it's true that there was a movement called Zionism, which gained strength in the late 1800s as Jewish communities in Europe and elsewhere faced escalated persecution, as we are now seeing in America and Europe today. And so the secular Austro-Hungarian Jewish journalist Theodor Herzl, Herzl, wrote Der Judenstaat, or the Jewish State, in the year 1896. In this pamphlet, Theodor Herzl outlined how Jews could return to their historic home and create a state free from discrimination. He encouraged Jews to purchase land in what had become known as Palestine. Now, before I continue, for those of you who hate Jews and have it all wrong, I will repeat for you that you are spreading malicious lies that are leading to the deaths of people around the world. Israel has a constitution. Hamas has no constitution. Israel has a constitution which says Israel will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. Now, you may not know this because you've been reading the Harvard Times, but I'll repeat something that you should know. The freest Arabs in the entire Middle East are Israel's Arab citizens. The freest Arabs in the Middle East are Israel's Arab citizens. Along with the Jewish citizens of Israel, Arab citizens of Israel vote, attend university, practice law, form political parties, serve in the Knesset, and sit on the Israeli Supreme Court. You don't know that because your mind is warped and distorted. It's the same that I see with lesbians. Radical lesbians are running around Free Palestine and tearing down the pictures of Jewish kidnap victims, if you can believe it. Now, why would lesbians take the side of Hamas, who would throw them off a building? There are no lesbians permitted in Gaza or in any Arab nation. They're killed, persecuted, they're underground. Israel's a free nation where gays and lesbians do what they want. For better or for worse, by the way, but that's the way it is. But where did the word Zionism come from? We keep hearing these signs. We see these signs all over the country now. Zionism is racism, like it's a given fact. Well, actually, Islamism is true racism, but there's no posters made up for that one. How did these hundreds of thousands of Palestinians get headscarves overnight and have ready-made posters overnight? Where'd that come from? Probably George Soros money. Overnight, George Soros had the posters printed. I don't mean him personally, but the money was there. Zionism is racism. Where did this deliberate slur come from? Where did it come from? It came from the Soviet Union during the Cold War. They created the slogan that you are hearing now from the American left. And they took it from the invented book, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, a completely invented book. And they distorted the whole meaning of the chosen people. The chosen people does not say that the Jews are superior. It's not that at all. The sad truth is the Jewish people were chosen or set apart for special and burdensome religious and social obligations. But that did not stop the ex-Soviet Union and Cuba and all the Arab world from repeating this deliberate slur and criticizing Jews in Israel by using this phrase created by the Soviets, Zionism is racism. Just a little background. Jews have lived in the Middle East and Israel, as a matter of fact, for 3,900 years. Maybe I'll save that for another time. Before I was about to do this, and I was hesitant to do this today because there is so much confusion out there, a friend of mine texted me. I haven't heard from him in a long while. And he said to me, Michael, you have to read Ezekiel 38. He said, I know you read the Bible. I said, not as often as you do. I said, what's in Ezekiel 38? So I found Ezekiel 38 from my occasionally read Bible. This is the famous Savage Bible from the radio show days. And I looked up Ezekiel 38, and it's very worrisome. It's actually quite worrisome. I mean, if you are a biblical realist, or absolutist rather, it's terrible to read this. It's terrible to read it because I had years ago on the radio show a preacher, Reverend Falwell, a great man. We disagreed on certain things, but a great man, a great preacher. And he talked about things I had never heard, Gog and Magog. This is common knowledge to fundamentalist Christians. They know what Gog and Magog are. And my friend is a fundamentalist Christian who carries the Bible around with him and actually reads it. And so I looked up Ezekiel 38, and I'm not going to read it all to you. You can look it up yourself, but it's very worrisome because he believes we are in the end days. This is a very powerful Christian belief. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face toward Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against them, and say, Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee about and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed most gorgeously, a great company with buckler and shield, all of them handling swords, Persia, Cush, and put with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Notice the word Persia, the nation Persia, Iran, Cush and Put, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Tag Armah in the uttermost parts of the north, and all his bands, those would be the Syrians, even many peoples with thee, that would be Hezbollah. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou guarded of them. After many days thou shalt be mustered for service. In the latter years thou shalt come against the land that is brought back from the sword, that would be Israel, that is gathered out of many peoples against the mountains of Israel. And you can read the rest yourself. It shall come to pass in that day. Terrible things are coming, folks. If you're a biblical person, if you're a fundamentalist Christian, you've been waiting for these times your whole life. All these armies will turn on Israel again, like clouds to cover the land in the end of days. They will all be brought up against Israel again. And what will happen? What happens when Gog comes against the land of Israel? What happens when Gog comes up against the land of Israel? Read it for yourself. Terrible things are going to happen. Terrible things are going to happen. A fire upon Magog. But I found something that I read to my friend as we were on the phone today, not from Isaiah, not from Ezekiel, but from Isaiah. And then I read to him another piece of the Bible that I had been noted for many years, that's worried me for many years. And you say, how could a Bible be predictive like this? How could it predict things like this? I probably will have trouble finding this right now. It's not that I don't feel good. It's just I don't even want to read it to you, because I have seen predictions of nuclear war in this Bible in several places that I don't want to repeat them here. But I will find it for you if I can. I think it's Joshua, now that I recall. It was in Joshua that I read to him this morning. But I have so many Post-its. The problem is when you have so many Post-its, they're meaningless. The whole book becomes a book of Post-its. But it was about what happens in the skies. And it was that. It was that. It was definitely a nuclear blowout. Now, you can blame anybody you want. You take whichever side you want. Here it is, Joshua. For those of you who like the Bible, Joshua, right here. Joshua, book, chapter 13. And the sun stood still and the moon stayed until the nation had avenged themselves of their enemies. And that means that when all these nations combine, go up against Israel again, this time a bigger conglomeration of them, Israel will have no choice. Their backs will be to the wall. They will unleash a nuclear blast against the capitals of every one of these cities and wipe them off the planet. Read the Bible, laugh at the Bible if you want, mock the Bible if you want, because when the people of the world go up against the children of Israel, this is what will happen. And the walls of Jericho came tumbling down. There's a black spiritual in black churches that was sung in the 50s, and the walls came tumbling down. The horns of Jericho brought the walls of Jericho down. Well, I wish that I had nice news for you today. And the sun stood still and the moon stayed until the nation had avenged themselves of their enemies. What can I say? I'm only a man reading an ancient book. Let us pray that the people come to a sense of peace before this horrendous possibility engulfs the whole world. Would I be surprised if it came to that? I've told you the story before that when I was a little boy in the Bronx, 5 years old, 6 years old, I don't remember. I remember seeing a newspaper showing the second blast of Nagasaki on the front pages of the Daily News or the New York Mirror, I don't know which. And it showed the devastation of that early atomic bomb. And I remember my mind was so overwhelmed by the picture of the destruction. Here's this little kid. I go running down Longfellow Avenue screaming, the world is coming to an end. The world is coming to an end. The world is coming to an end. So they thought I was crazy. They took me to doctors. They had no money. They were poor people, but they thought that I was a crazy person. Well, maybe I am crazy, but I've gotten to this point in life without doing anything wrong, doing only the good that I could do. Perfect, no. Great, no. Mistaken sometimes, maybe. But I then read in the Bible, your old men shall dream dreams and your children shall prophesy. Your children shall prophesy and your old men shall dream dreams. So you could say that I was born a prophet. It is possible there are prophetic people on the planet. Is it possible that I am one of them? Would it matter if I actually were a prophet? What does a prophet mean? Does it make you some holy person? No, absolutely not. The word prophet probably means somebody who prophesies what will happen. And in my 28 books that I have written, people have bought them. What are they, stupid? Everyone's stupid. Titles like Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, The Coming Civil War, Mass Hysteria. They were prophetic. They were prophetic. I would be remiss if I had not, at this point, did not tell you that my new book will be published next week, and I'm proud of it. It's called A Savage Republic Inside the Plot to Destroy America. Now you say, well, why do I need a book like that? You may say, I know all of it. Well, maybe you do. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you just don't know how deep the plot to destroy America actually is. And just as the slaughter of the innocent Jews by the Hamas Nazis woke up some people, unfortunately not many, but some, saw the terror that is capable of these people, the terror that they inflict upon innocents, taking one Jewish baby and putting the baby in an oven while it was alive and burning it alive in one of the houses that they raided, raping granddaughters in front of grandmothers. You didn't hear about the atrocities. All you do is you hear the lies about Zionism is this, Zionism is that. And you see armies of Nazis running through America with their headscarves. I said years ago, Hitler in a headscarf is back. I'm not ashamed to tell you again. You think I'm stupid? I don't know who these people are? They're Nazis. They're crypto Nazis all over again with a religious fervor attached to it. So Hitler in a headscarf. I said it in the 1990s. And so I hope you have learned something today about what is a Zionist. Zion is the name of a hill in the city of Jerusalem, the city itself. But of course, those who are repeating the deliberate slur, Zionism is racism, don't even know that they're repeating a Soviet-era slur created by the brilliant propagandists in the Soviet Union. You know, you have to ask yourself a question. If the Palestinians are such good citizens and such wonderful all-around people, why is it that no Arab nation wants Palestinians? I tried to tell you about the Black September movement of the PLO. I tried to tell you that more Palestinians were killed when they tried to take over Jordan. More Palestinians were killed by the Jordanian military in 71, 72 than have been killed in all the wars against Israel, because the Jordanians didn't want Palestinians in there. Once Palestinian refugees were let into Jordan, they tried to take over the country. In 1991, the Kuwaiti government threw out 300,000 Palestinians after the first Gulf War. Why? They threw out 18% of their own population. The Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, had supported Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait a year earlier, decades earlier. The Palestinian groups that were operating in Jordan called for the overthrow of Jordan's king, the monarchy. So they threw them out. They sowed chaos. Armed gangs of PLO militants were driving around the capital of Amman, Jordan, robbing families the way Hamas did in Gaza, robbing businesses in the name of collecting financial assistance for the ongoing war of attrition against Israel. In other words, they were a mafia. They were a mafia, using religion as a weapon. And so the Palestinian political network within Jordan became a state within a state, and they used Jordan to launch rockets into Israel. What happened was, September 1970, the Jordanian army had finally had enough, and a full-scale war with the PLO broke out. 10 months of fighting, the Palestinians were driven out of the nation of Jordan. And yet, as a parting shot, the Palestinian terrorist group known as Black September assassinated the Jordanian prime minister. But the story doesn't end there, because the PLO moved into the beautiful, beautiful biblical nation of Lebanon, where they allied themselves with Marxist and socialist movements that sought to overthrow Lebanon's conservative Maronite Christian government. And the thousands of Palestinian terrorists that flooded into Lebanon destabilized the nation and threw the entire nation of Lebanon into chaos. Lebanon is now a wreck because of the Palestinians who took it over. Every country that Palestinians have gone to, they have destroyed. And that's why there is not an Arab nation on earth that will permit Palestinians to resettle within their borders, because they know their country will collapse. That's why no Arab nation wants Palestinians, but apparently Biden loves them. We can't get enough of them. They all had headscarves and posters ready to go as they marched in New York, LA, Washington, D.C. They had the posters. Who printed them overnight? Where'd they get all those headscarves overnight? So we have a fifth column in America right now under the guise of an outraged minority, offended population. Zionism is racism, end the occupation, end the colonization. They're Marxist, Leninist terrorists, all of them. If we had a real FBI right now, they'd be investigating the leaders of those mobs and arrest them. And first of all, they would deport immediately, without a trial, deport everyone who's not a citizen who were in any of those marches, throw them out of the country. One-way trip to Gaza on a C-47. Take them right out of the country, because they will foment a revolution in this country the same way they did in Lebanon, as sure as I am sitting here speaking with you today. Well, that's today's discussion. God talk. I read to you from the Bible. I indicated to you that there's a book of prophecy that's coming out now called Savage Republic Inside. It's launched next week. But I want to read you something from the book that's interesting, because I was looking through it this morning and I said, look, why would anyone buy a book? What do they need a book for in these troubling times? They know everything. They read TikTok. So if you look at the chapter titles, it's interesting. The Civil War is here. Look at that. Look what this non-prophetic man wrote. The Civil War is here. The puppet president plot. The puppet president. Well, now, we heard that they stole the election and nobody wanted to believe it. But just the other day, we saw a woman in Georgia stuffing a ballot box. And she was so caught so nakedly stuffing a ballot box that they had to call for new elections. And this is what Trump is on trial for with that corrupt, degenerate judge, who I hope the judge winds up in jail. You talk about Trump. I don't know how this attorney general is not in prison. This stooge of George Soros, again, the most evil man on the planet. The show trials plot. The American Stasi. No borders Biden. Children in cages. The white supremacy myth. Biden lynches white America. How's that one? Biden lynches white America. The censorship plot, the culture plot, the bankruptcy plot, the chaos plot, the divide and conquer plot, the war plot. Oh, the war plot. Advice to the next president. You know, I should pause on the war plot, because I had predicted that unless we forced a settlement on Zelensky, who's a front for the Azovs in Ukraine, as bad as Putin may be by invading Ukraine, and unless you know history and know that it began in 2013, not last year, it was stimulated and stirred up by John McCain and Nuland, who went over there and overthrew the government. And by the way, John McCain not only encouraged the Ukrainians to throw out a duly elected government, there was peace, by the way, in Ukraine. Not a happy peace, but there was a peace. And Zelensky, the perverted comedian, comes along and he says he'll run on a campaign of no war with Russia, a peace platform, and he would not invite NATO into Ukraine, nor put nuclear missiles on the border with Russia. That's what Zelensky ran on. But he became so empowered and so drunk on the act he was playing, the Academy Awards were flowing. UN, New York, everywhere you went, there he was in the dirty undershirt. And now they launched a couple of cruise missiles just yesterday at a shipyard in Crimea and damaged a Russian battleship. I had told you that unless peace was brought to Ukraine, to the Ukraine-Russia war, this would escalate into a World War I where the whole world would be engulfed in war. Because I know something about history. War breeds war. Peace breeds peace. War breeds war. Peace breeds peace. And the longer this war between Ukraine and Russia went on, the worse it got. We drove Russia into the hands of China, not a natural set of friends. We drove Russia into the hands of Iran. They were enemies before the Ukraine disaster. And now what we have is this war plot and the tons of money that Biden is sending over there. God knows why he insists on it, but I've read every story there is. It comes back here. Who knows? We know that the munitions industry is bad enough as it is without having to go to the next step. Listen to me again. War breeds war. Peace breeds peace. I said to you, either on this or one of my podcasts, that if this is not stopped between Ukraine and Russia, it will escalate into another war, then another war, and it's already escalated. You say, well, what does one thing have to do with another? Oh, they are interrelated. What Hamas just did in killing 1,400 innocent Israelis and kidnapping little babies and grandmothers and grandfathers and others is directly related to the war in Ukraine. They sensed weakness. They sensed weakness. So the only way to stop this is to show the world that we can achieve peace by bringing Ukraine to the table with Russia and making them work out an agreement. Again, Zelensky said, I can't do it. It's impossible. Trump can't do it. No one could do it. Oh, that's bull. Of course it could be done. And if you could get Putin to agree that if he gets the territories that he's invaded and now controls fundamentally, they're Russian speaking anyway, if he gets control of those territories of Ukraine, which were Russian speaking anyway, for right or wrong, if he gets those territories and he agrees to pull back from his alliances with Iran and China against America and Syria, we could start reversing the entire war situation that we are currently in. I said if. So this is Michael Savage from the Savage Institute of Peace signing off. I think I am going to create an Institute of Peace. It's the only solution to my problems. I want to work for peace because I'm fundamentally believing only peace can prevail on earth. We can't live with war. We can't live with death. We can't live with hatred. We can only live with peace. And so let's pray to God. Let's pray for America. And that's it. That's the story today. I hope you've gotten something from this. Because if this keeps going, it's going to lead to a world war, as I said at the beginning. It will lead to what I told you, Ezekiel prophesied in 38. And we will have the sun stood still and the moon stayed until the nation had avenged themselves of their enemies. Read Joshua, read Ezekiel, and you will see what is coming, unless we can pull the fools that run our countries back from the brink of insanity. This is Michael Savage signing off for the day. Thank you for listening to God Talk. We have two phenomenal podcasts coming up this week. I do. Tomorrow we have an incredible one. I interviewed Robert Spencer, who's the director of Jihad Watch. Oh boy, does he know what he's talking about. I love how they say jihad doesn't mean war. It means warfare against unbelievers. Wait till you learn about jihad from him. That's the Tuesday pod. And you'll find out what's coming very soon, if you don't already know. Thank you very much for listening. Please patronize my podcasts. And again, I guess I should do this. It does mean something. If you enjoyed this free YouTube piece, I guess all you got to do is hit the like button. That does something. I don't know how people have millions of followers. I just don't. I truly don't understand social media. I'm an older person. I use it. I love Twitter. I love Facebook. I love Instagram. I love YouTube. I love working on them. It's total freedom. I don't have any management to talk to. And it allows me to reach you with my thoughts from the Savage Institute of Peace. But I really am not adept at building audience. So if you want to click the like button, and if you want to go to Amazon and take a look at a Savage Republic, say, well, what good is it going to do to buy a book? I'll tell you exactly what. Just as some of your family may have awakened to what the world is by what they saw the Hamas Nazis did to Jewish men, women, and children, burning babies alive, putting this book on a table in your house may just awaken one voter in time for the elections. How's that? No, it's not in bookstores yet. It may be in a week or two. I don't know. You could buy it on Amazon right now. Pray for peace. Pray for the peace. Pray for peace, because peace is patriotic. I'm Michael Savage. God bless America. It's all we got left.